Welcome back to ZBTV. And you see these White Cat memes, go check them out on Facebook, where I've also shared them, in the White Cat memes group. But, right now, on TalkZach, we're talking phones. Coming up. Friends and followers, welcome back to my channel, and greetings from home. I hope y'all are doing amazingly well out there. And, as a truck driver, you know when you get into certain situations, like, well, the dispatcher constantly calling, or the your fellow driver needing help in an emergency, or maybe you need something that allows you to get work done on the road. So, on this episode of TalkZach, yes, I know I'm still using the Truckin' It title for a lot of the Truckin' It related stuff, but for this one, it can apply to a lot of people, so I'm going to kind of spread this one out as a TalkZach episode. And I want to talk with y'all about getting the right phone. Because, believe it or not, there's just so many options out there, it's crazy. So I want to help you clarify some of that stuff, and maybe we can avoid confusion. But there's a lot of decisions that are personal preference in this. So let's get started, and we'll go from there. Okay, so number one, find out what phones work with the carrier you're planning to get. Now, if you've already got an existing phone, an existing contract, or existing agreement, or whatever, a carrier that you like, this part should be easy. But for the rest of y'all, if you're not buying a phone through a cell phone company, make sure that you double check coverage and double check your compatibility for your prospective device, because not all carriers work with all devices, as I found out with Cricket. Yeah, I'm mentioning them specifically because the features that didn't work, even though I had bought phones that were supposedly compatible, were the Wi-Fi calling, voice over LTE, and certain carrier-specific apps. So, when I had them for 6 months, and by the way, I just switched to T-Mobile, which is far better for unlocked devices, I ended up having to buy new phones. And that sucked. With T-Mobile, I was able to actually move my old Cricket devices, plus the spare phones I had laying around, to them, and everything works as advertised. So, if you're deciding between Cricket and T-Mobile, that is going to be one of the factors you'll want to consider. Make sure, if you're going to go with Cricket, budget for a new device. It's that simple. If you're going to T-Mobile, or perhaps one of the other carriers, check your device with them. Number two is, if you're shopping for a new device, I like unlocked devices personally, because that way I can just take them to the phone company of my choice instead of being locked to a carrier. It's that simple. And I pay cash for my devices now, instead of dealing with credit cards, etc., or payment plans or contracts. And that's to help you stay out of debt. Because one of the biggest things that I've seen drivers do in terms of mistakes is go into debt for a cell phone. And that's whether you be an Uber driver, Lyft driver, truck driver, etc. So instead of going into debt, go for a cheaper device. Nice, that meets your requirements. Double check with the manufacturers. Check with your carrier to see if your phone is going to be offered for free or at an employee discount or whatever. And when you're ready to make the switch to a different phone company, or if you decide you just need a new phone, definitely shop around and try to get the best deal you can. Number 3, device specs. I mentioned about getting the most you can afford. That means most you can afford in terms of durability, quality, and features. I'm a big fan of Android. I like devices like the Google Pixels, the Motorola G series, the Samsung Galaxy, and the LGs. Whereas one device I did try for 2 years, but I found I eventually hated it, was the Apple iPhone. And it's not any fault really of anyone. It's just one thing that sucks about the iPhone is that it does not have micro SD expansion. So you have to buy more memory up front and pay what I like to call the Apple tax if you are going with their devices. 32 gigs is not enough anymore. 64 gigs, well, you're kind of pushing it. So if you're buying an Apple device, you need at least 128 gigs of storage internally so that you can save your music, your photos, and your apps. Android devices don't have that problem because they separate the photos, videos, and some of your apps from your internal system memory. And the way they do that is with a micro SD card slot. So with an Android device, you can buy a device that has less internal storage and still be okay. Now, how much internal storage would I recommend? On an Android, no less than 32 gigs. Except if you're a truck driver. Now, if you're somebody who's more of a casual user of your phone, 16 gigs is okay. Especially if you're not downloading a bunch of apps and not putting music on your phone, etc. But 32 gigs is what I would recommend for a driver because obviously ELDs and other such items take up internal storage. It's that simple. Then we go on to cameras. Of course, I like to pair my DSLRs and mirrorless cameras with my phone, so that helps in terms of having a camera available at all times. But if you're looking at a device with cameras on it, you want 2 high-resolution cameras, one on front, one on the back. Some phones may include more for things like portraits and landscape shots, etc. Again, that's more personal preference at this point. Now, one of the features your phone camera should have is a built-in flashlight. And the reason is because as a truck driver myself, as well as talking with friends who have done rideshare, etc., there are times in which you will definitely need it. I mean, flat tire alongside the road, or maybe you got to document the face of somebody, or maybe for a police report, or maybe you got to, in the case of a truck driver like myself, check the condition of the fifth wheel, underneath the trailer, and you don't have a big flashlight with you. Or maybe you need to send a photo of some damaged cargo to your carrier so that their insurance can reimburse the customer. That's all stuff that requires a good camera, and or maybe something happened to your rig, and I'm not going to say parking lot accident necessarily, but maybe something mechanical broke, like your brake, like maybe one of your airlines started leaking, for example, and you need to document that for your carrier so that they can arrange for repair. That is all going to require a good camera on your phone. Another feature to look for: water resistance. Some phone manufacturers brag about how deep their phones go underwater these days, but just remember the screen's not going to work in that case. That being said, splash resistant at minimum, so that if you do accidentally get water from, let's say, the bathroom faucet or from a sudden thunderstorm on it, that your phone will survive that. Now, of course, you can always go deeper. You can always get a phone that's like IP rated for up to 3 meters, etc. That's personal preference, though. Another thing. 90% of phone replacements from truck drivers happen because of a cracked screen. So, yeah, I know some phone companies will offer you insurance, etc. But the most important thing to have for your phone to make sure it's going to work when you need it is a case. Preferably one that is shock resistant and can absorb impact. One that has raised edges around the edge of your screen. And most importantly, one that is designed for the purpose of protecting your phone. Now, some of the phone cases you see on Amazon, like ones that I just ordered for my iPhones, let me grab one here. So this one has built-in little kickstand that doubles as the magnet for your phone mount. And I found it very cheap on Amazon. So you don't have to buy the $40 OtterBox or anything like that. But a good basic phone case is a must. Then we go on to the other thing that you must have, and that means your phone, no matter what carrier you go through, needs to have built-in Bluetooth. And the reason is because of FMCSA requirements. In fact, let me look up the rule on my spare phone right quick. FMCSA texting while driving rule.
According to regulations, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, U.S. Department of Transportation.
And I'm looking, and then regulations, Part 383, 384, 390, 391, and 392, they all say that handheld cell phone use is strictly prohibited in commercial vehicles, such as Uber, Lyft, and semi-tractor trailer trucks. And many states also have jurisdictions that require that you use a mount and a headset. So if your vehicle doesn't have built-in Bluetooth, you're going to have to get a headset at some point. And that's that. And for you international followers, by the way, hands-free and phone regulation will vary depending on your country. So check with your local regulations for details. This is just the stuff for commercial drivers here in the United States, especially the semi-drivers like me, but also some of the rideshare drivers as well. And it's best And then here's another feature to look for. Now on mine it's disguised as the brand's logo, but on other phones a fingerprint sensor will make your life a whole lot easier. Because instead of trying to key a pin in while you're trying to go down the road, all you do is you put your finger on the back, let it scan for a moment, and then like this. So I just put my finger on that little Motorola logo, and there the device unlocks. So, if y'all are interested in my opinion on your favorite device, let me know down in the comments below. And, well, this advice applies to those in the United States of America. Some of my international followers will also appreciate this as well. And, by the way, stop breaking your phones. Get one that's better in the first place and get a case for it, and you'll be good to go. Let's make your best trip your next trip. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep on driving. Bye for now.